Okay, I think we'll get started. If anybody else joins us, they'll soon catch up, I'm sure. Thank you everybody for coming along to this webinar. This is our September edition of Webinar Wednesday, hosted by HIT Technology. This session is all about improving your and streamlining your business processes with integration between SYSPRO and your chosen CRM application. In this particular webinar, we're going to use SalesForce as the example, as a CRM solution. We'll be able to showcase a number of different features of a product called BPA Platform, which is an integration and automation middleware solution that we partner with from Codeless Platforms. So thank you, as I say, for coming along. Hopefully we'll shed some light on what BPA Platform is and how you can gain some real advantage in your business through integration between SYSPRO and other applications. My name is Andrew Longland. I'm the Managing Director of HIT Technology. If you can just, there we go. You can get to see our ugly mugs as well. So I'm the Managing Director of HIT Technology. We're hosting this webinar, but I'm joined by our partners at Codeless Platforms, and with us today we've got Kelvin Tebbs, who's the SYSPRO Channel Manager at Codeless, and David Sheardown, Pre-Sales Manager at Codeless. Between the three of us, we'll guide you through some content and a demo of BPA Platform, showing you an integration between SalesForce and SYSPRO. As I say, SalesForce just being used as the example in this scenario to bring it to life. We've been partnering with Codeless Platforms for 7-8 years, something like that. Kelvin and I have known each other even longer, I think. Yeah, we work closely with the team at Codeless Platforms to deliver the BPA Platform solution to our customers for varying different projects, whether it be CRM integration, e-commerce integration, etc. And what we tend to find is customers, once they buy BPA Platform, they then, for one particular project, they then find that there's lots of other solutions they can apply it to and build out an even bigger environment in terms of integrations and automations. So what do we do at HIT Technology? I think people on this call probably know us. We are a SYSPRO partner in the UK. We have SYSPRO at the core of everything that we do as an ERP solution, but there are a number of other products that sit around a SYSPRO environment or any ERP environment really. Some of those products are already pre-integrated with SYSPRO. So you can see in this diagram here, we've just got pulled out a couple of examples there. So RightScan, as an example, is already integrated with SYSPRO inherently. Same with Trailed and CADlink, and there's a handful of others as well. But what we come across more often than not is customers have other solutions, whether it be CRM, expense management, e-commerce, product information management, all those sort of things that don't inherently have integrations with SYSPRO, but that doesn't mean they can't be integrated, and that's where BPA Platform from Codeless Platforms comes in, and we use that as a layer between SYSPRO and those other solutions, doing all the clever stuff in the background automatically so that you don't have to. It takes away all the double data entry that you might have to go through. Means that everything is being pushed into SYSPRO or pulled out of SYSPRO using all of the relevant validation that you would expect, as if the person was sat in front of the SYSPRO interface. So if you make an error in your entry in SYSPRO, then the same error will cause the same validation message to come back through the integration via BPA Platform, so we can trap all that sort of stuff. So that's probably enough from me, because really what you're here to see and hear about is the product itself and how that's applied in a CRM integration. So I'm going to hand over to Kelvin, who will take you through some information on what BPA Platform is, what it's capable of, how it's deployed, and those sort of things. And then he'll hand on to David, who will actually run through a demonstration of a working solution. Kelvin, over to you.
Thank you very much. Move on to my next slide. So it's great to be here. Thank you, Andrew, for the opportunity to talk today. My aim is to provide you with some key information regarding codeless platforms and our software application that Andrew mentioned, BPA Platform. BPA stands for Business Process Automation, with automation being at the heart and foundation of everything the application does. I'll start by providing a brief introduction to who I am and the role that I play. My name is Kelvin Tebbs. I'm the SYSPRO channel manager here at Codeless, and my role is predominantly to support the many resellers, ISVs, both in and out of the SYSPRO ecosystem, as well as our direct relationship with SYSPRO as a vendor. Hopefully this overview will give you a good understanding on the many uses and ways that BPA can be utilised and help companies, with particular focus today being the CRM integrations. If all being well, hopefully we might get invited back by Andrew to do another type of integration and discuss other automations in the future. The platform itself deals with e-commerce integrations, WMSs, payment providers and gateways, etc. And the platform gives you, as the customer, the ability to pick and choose the third-party systems that you feel are the best fit for your business. And we help to enable that to happen with BPA providing the feed to and from your ERP system.
Sorry, Kelvin, before you carry on there,
yes.
I should have mentioned at the beginning, we will have a Q&A session at the end of this. But if anybody has any burning questions during the presentation and demo, please feel free to pop them in the chat or the Q&A option if you have that, and I'll sort of mediate that as and when appropriate. But yeah, at the end there will be an opportunity to ask other questions as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, yeah, pop them into the chat and we'll help answer them at the end. So just to give you a brief introduction to Codeless. Codeless was established in the late 90s. It was originally created as an alerts and notification tool. This was way back before integrations and APIs were prevalent and available and needed. The application itself has since evolved over the many years, bringing us to where we currently stand today as one of the leading middleware solution providers, with key relationships and integrations with some of the largest ERPs as well as software vendors around the world. As part of this evolution, we decided to rebrand the company and the software back in 2018, now known today as Codeless Platforms. And BPA is the core and only product that we have. It's created in the UK, developed in the UK, with many relationships at the essence and core of what we do. And with these relationships, as you can see, spanning many decades. So the many benefits of using BPA platforms includes things like improved data accuracy and consistency. When the CRM and ERP systems are integrated, data and business information are seamlessly synchronized across both platforms. This eliminates the need for manual data entry and ensures that stakeholders have access to accurate and up-to-date information, reducing the risk of administrative errors and inconsistencies. Enhanced customer insights. By combining customer data from the CRM system with operational data from the ERP system, businesses gain comprehensive view of the customer's interaction, preferences, and behaviors. This understanding enables companies to tailor their offerings, delivering personalized experiences and generally anticipating customer needs more effectively. By streamlining the business processes, CRM and ERP integrations facilitate the automation of various processes from different areas of the business, such as bridging order management, invoicing, and inventory updates between marketing, sales, finance, and the warehouse team. This seamless integration removes redundant tasks, reduces manual effort, and ensures that information flows smoothly between different departments, resulting in increased operational efficiencies and productivity. By increasing productivity through the use of CRM and ERP systems working in tandem, employees can access relevant customer and operational data from a single source, eliminating the need to switch between multiple applications or consult different databases. This streamlined access to information enhances productivity and enables faster decision-making, ultimately improving company performance. It also gives the ability for better forecasting and planning as a whole. The integration of CRM and ERP system provides businesses with comprehensive view of customer demand, sales trends, and operational capabilities. The valuable insight enables more accurate forecasting, better inventory management, and more informed strategic planning, helping companies stay ahead of its competition and adapting to changing markets. In essence, as you might expect, as a middleware solution, BPA Platform will sit in the middle of your technology stack. It will provide synchronized data between your SYSPRO ERP system and other applications, such as SalesForce. This application itself handles on-premise, full cloud, or a hybrid approach, and will sit there doing as it's been instructed to do. As mentioned previously, we connect to and work with a host of different software applications. Here's just a small sample and a look of the more popular CRM applications that our software is used to connecting to and communicating with. In BPA Platform, we have this notion of templates. So what David will show you is one of our templates and explain how they're deployed. But in essence, we've taken the liberty of creating some of the more standard popular data flows that a customer may wish to have in place, so the data can be passed between systems like SalesForce and SYSPRO. This means with the use of these templates, they can be inherited and deployed by our partners quickly, easily, and when taken as is, these can be deployed relatively seamlessly. That doesn't mean that they can't be adapted over time or changed. They can be expanded upon with our partners adding additional functionality to them, and at the same time tailoring them to the specific needs of your business. This is the point where I'll hand you over to my colleague, David Sheardown, who will run through the demonstration of BPA and provide an overview of some of the example data flows, showing how information can pass between both systems, both ERP and CRM. David, I'll let you.
Yep, perfect. Hello, everyone. Okay, I will just share the appropriate screens here if everybody can see my screen, all being well. So yeah, perfect. We're going to have a little quick look at, obviously I've got SalesForce in my browser, and also I've got SYSPRO, which will look very familiar to everyone, I'm sure. But before I actually show a demo, I'll just give you a quick look at BPA, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into what's making this work. I'll show you the demo shortly. Excuse me. But BPA, it runs on a Windows server, as Kelvin mentioned, on-premise in the cloud. But it's basically loosely explained. It's got two sections. We've got tools and configuration, and then we've got tasks or processes that we use to build these solutions. Okay, so on the tool side, we've got lots of connectors. These are just a sample on a demo VM, but we've got dedicated connectors to SYSPRO and to a lot of other systems that I'm sure you're not interested in, some of those, but also a lot of the popular CRM and e-commerce systems, actually, including Amazon and eBay and lots of others. So really what you do, instead of having any complex sort of coding, the SYSPRO connector, you can have multiple connections because you may, while you're testing things, have a connection to your test company, and then obviously a live company. Okay, so the idea is those connections are configured inside these tools, and then we've got the tasks that will use those tools together. And I'll show you that work, how some of those tasks are working. And as Kelvin mentioned, a very quick look at what a solution template actually looks like. But what I'll do first of all is just jump into a very quick demo. It's a very trimmed down demo for time's sake, but you'll get the idea, and I can show you exactly what's making this work. And as I say, I can have a look at that template solution shortly. So what I'm going to do is pick a trusty customer that I've got. When my system responds, it's always longer when you do demos, isn't it? So let me have a look at my trusty Bicycles Unlimited. Okay, there we go. Now it's got some contact information just to make it really easy. As I'll explain shortly, we can essentially synchronize whatever's available for both ends of the system. Okay, so I've got a PO box 1234, clearly wrong, but I don't know that yet. And in Salesforce, I don't have Bicycles Unlimited as yet. Okay, excuse me, sorry for the coughing. So in BPA, what would be happening is this is a management interface. This wouldn't need to be open. Once tasks are configured and they're set, it's like any other service. It'll run in the background and do, as Kelvin said, do what it needs to do day after day, hour after hour. So that means that all of these tasks, the processes, are usually on some sort of schedule or some sort of trigger. So that's great, but for a demo, it doesn't always give the best experience. So what we can do is execute these tasks manually, which is great if you're doing development or testing anyway, and certainly good for a demo like this. So the very first one, I should explain, is we're going to synchronize just that one customer for the demo example, Bicycles Unlimited to Salesforce, because it's not there yet. And then what we're going to do is make a change in Salesforce and pull that change back down. It's a really rudimentary, simple example, but you'll get the idea of how this would work. And then, as I say, I could talk around the actual solution and what that would look like in a production environment. So I'm going to queue, which is the equivalent of run, essentially. And again, these would be running on a schedule automatically, and it's going about its business. I'll show you inside these tasks shortly. But first of all, let's just check if that actually worked. So if I just refresh the account list, yep, there we go. I can see Bicycles Unlimited, and I've got just for this, it's a very contrived example, but I've got the wrong PO box number there. Okay, so if I edit in SYSPRO and change that to an even worse one, which is 9999, but that's a very clear change that you'll be able to see. So if I save that one, and again, that hasn't come back down yet, but these tasks would be automated. They'd be running in the background, but I'm just going to process that one again manually. We'll let that run. And again, I'll show you what these tasks are doing in a second. But that is now, oops, I didn't really want to go back home, but that's okay. I'll just pop back into the customer query. There, and I'll pick our trusty Bicycles Unlimited again. Okay, and we'll have there, and you can see now that that one element has been updated. Now, obviously, that could refer to an email, telephone numbers, all sorts of things, you know, whether it's a credit limit, all of those things going up to whatever Salesforce can provide. So everything from opportunities to orders, you know, everything that's available, we can usually synchronize with. And it means that you've also got selective options there as well, what to synchronize and what not to synchronize. Okay, so how did that all happen? Well, very quickly, this is a very, as I say, these are demo tasks just to make very clear what is actually happening. So if I show you an example what a task looks like in BPA, this is a, you know, a very typical process flow. We would certainly have more robust sort of error checking, which I'll show you in a second. But this would be a schedule. These things are steps, are tools. So we've got a whole heap of tools in our side browser bar here, everything from event type tools, input tools, talking to databases, files, all the types of data connectors. And again, this is only really a subset. And we've also got other format tools and output tools. We can send email, send text, FTP, SFTP, all of those good things. And we've also got a bunch of advanced things to do with executing other functions and external functions as well. But ultimately, these steps or these tools are dragged in onto this workspace. You can move them around. They're all just normal sort of things. And essentially, we've got the SYSPRO connector, which I'll just open up. And this is what is happening to push that customer up. Now, it's a very contrived demo. You can see I've actually got a dedicated customer that I'm using for testing. And you can see there we've got the accounts receivable. There's other objects out of SYSPRO, and then obviously the operations that supports. Okay, so this is getting a query. So it's obviously saying for that customer, go and fetch me that customer. We've got some transformation as well. So I'll open it very briefly. It's nothing overly scary, but what this transform step does is allow us to basically shape the data. So we can do things like shape the data to another format. So the data coming out of SYSPRO, for instance, there's quite a lot of data, but I only really want just a handful of elements in this example. And that's where we're getting to the mapping, where we can see we've got a mapping process that we can pull data across, and we could do all sorts of things in here, which maybe for another day we can show you more advanced usage of this, but it's essentially a mapping exercise. And again, we go up to Salesforce. And the good thing is all of our tools use the same common interface. So this Salesforce tool looks similar, not exactly, but similar to the SYSPRO connector. And that's where we've got the objects that we've defined. Now, there's obviously a lot more objects available in SYSPRO, but we've just got a limited set. And you can see I'm doing an add, and the data is essentially out of SYSPRO mapping across to the Salesforce side. Okay, and so this is a very simple example, but how you can achieve getting that integration. And we've got the other way around, which I won't go into too much detail because it's virtually identical. I've got a very simple thing where I'm fetching that customer down and it's updating to SYSPRO. And that's a really very short, sweet demo. And the one thing I'll do just for another minute or two is just show where we've got a template, as Kelvin mentioned earlier. These are pre-configured templates, but as you can imagine by seeing what you've just seen, they can be completely customized as well. Generally, we'll try to do the common, obvious sort of things that you'd want to synchronize. In this case, we've got accounts. So if I show you, the idea is we'll go through on a schedule. It could be every 5 minutes, every 2 minutes, whatever it might be. And we do things like obviously accounts. suppliers and all sorts of things like that. Okay, but equally, if I have a look in one of these tasks, you'll see, yeah, it's a little bit more complex, but it's still not overly difficult to comprehend what's going on. We've got decision steps that we can introduce. We've got we can output if there's an error, we can catch errors, we can report on errors. But this is just another example of how one of those production templates would look. And as you can see, it's got the same sort of tooling that I showed in the very basic demo. We've just obviously extended this because it's doing a little bit more, and it's got a bit more robustness built in. But ultimately, these tasks are not fixed and set, as Kelvin mentioned. The partners like Andrew's team, they can modify these, adapt them, certainly for the mapping that you may need. But these would constitute what you would see as a production solution for BPA. Again, we've got product synchronization, and then I think we've got just sales orders, closed won opportunities, so we can get the quotes and the orders from SalesForce into SYSPRO. But again, this can certainly be extended to whatever your business requirements and rules are. Okay, so I will leave that there and hand back to Andrew. So if we need to answer any questions, I'm sure we can in a second.
That's great. Thanks, David, and thanks, Kelvin, as well for your input at the beginning there. And I know David sort of skipped through quite a lot of content there in a short space of time, but I think it's important to sort of show the functionality that's there already, and obviously some pre-built solutions. When we scope out and implement BPA platform for our customers, quite often there's more complex requirements, and sometimes we start from scratch, and other times we'll use templates like David just been showing there, and then extend them out. But what the templates do is deliver a quick win for you, because a lot of the work's already been done, because the basic process of accounts and products and things like that is already in place, and most customers need that sort of integration, and then it's just down to individual specific business requirements that we then extend out from there. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, we get involved in all sorts of different integrations and automations. It's not just CRM. There's e-commerce and various other things as well that we do lots of work with ERP, SYSPRO being the ERP at the heart of it all. And I think that's probably a good point to sort of open up to the floor now. If there are any further questions, or Kelvin, if you've got anything else you wanted to talk about before we get to questions.
I think David's overview is exactly that, a good overview, and an introduction to it. Obviously, we're more than happy to dive in a little bit deeper, but keeping this at a high level. It's nice for you to see and understand the server, the base application, what it can do, how the notion of a task or a process flow, if you will, the idea of using predefined tools to make the building blocks of the integrations, and to be able to really expand on these templates, as you rightly say, Andrew. That will potentially form the foundation of an integration, but you go into the scoping exercise to understand precisely how that business operates, how that business integration needs to happen and work for it to be a success. So yeah, I think it's important to stress that. There's nothing else from me really, other than in David's demo, he does touch on the notion of using events. There are and a schedule. There are other means and mechanisms in order to begin the process and kick the process on. And it's worth just explaining that too, that not everything has to happen on a schedule. But yeah, open forum, I think. Any questions?
Yeah, and please feel free to either put them in the chat or Q&A, or if you wish, you can take yourselves off of mute and ask verbally as well. As there's a handful of people on here, so it's not too bad to manage the conversation if you want to ask questions verbally. I think perhaps whilst people are sort of thinking through things, if I just sort of kick off with something that I think be useful for people to understand is around the licensing for BPA Platform. Kelvin, could you just talk people through what that looks like from a commercial point of view?
For sure. So we have the notion of tasks, if you will. So the processes themselves that David showed clearly in his demo. We have the notion of tasks. Normally we do a minimum task pack, which gives customers the ability to have some of these workflows, some of these processes built out. And then the notion of connections to the third-party systems that they need. There's a default. The package comes with X amount of tasks and includes mainly the standard tools, and then you have the third-party tools such as your SalesForce connector, your SYSPRO connector, etc. that are added into that. If then a customer wants more and wants another connection, you rightly mentioned, and I did at the start, e-commerce integration. So to add into their Salesforce kind of integration that's been built, if they then wanted to add something like a Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce or whatever, they just then buy the connector tool specifically to communicate with that third-party system as well. If they've got enough tasks in the package that they originally had and the minimum that we supply, great. If they don't, they can buy those on, and they're just modular too. And that forms part of the whole process and part of the scoping exercise. Obviously your team and we understand how many tasks a typical integration takes. For something like a Salesforce to SYSPRO integration, you're looking somewhere between 15-20 tasks, and the minimum pack at the moment currently that we supply is a 25 task pack. So that should give a few left over to do other things, other automations or alerts and notifications that a customer may want as well.
Okay. And from a licensing point of view, is that subscription? Is that CapEx? Or,
yes,
or
correct. So it's a subscription licensing paid annually in advance, and the license for your customers, Andrew, will run through HIT Tech, as you will appreciate. So the licensing aspect is quoted by you and your team, and licensed by yourselves. So they purchase the license via an approved partner.
Okay, thank you for that. We've just had a question come through from Silvio, I think that's how you pronounce it, just on the Q&A there. Could BPA manage back and forth SYSPRO and SQL database, causing changes in both systems depending on configuration? The simple answer to that is absolutely yes. There is a connector tool for SYSPRO. There's a connector tool for SQL databases as well, and depending on what your requirements are, you can build out a task with those connector tools in to go and, for example, go and query something in the SQL database, push that into SYSPRO, or vice versa. That's entirely possible. Yeah. So hopefully that's answered your question. I just see David has got his hand up, not David Sheardown, a different David. David, go ahead.
Sorry, it might be a bit of a technical question. So you mentioned the connections aren't always scheduled or scheduled events. What are the other options? Obviously, having a live connection back and forth, or triggers, or how does it work? And what if one of the systems is taken out of commission for some reason? And what happens? Does the information back up? What happens?
Very, very good question. I don't know if David Sheardown wants to take that one.
Yeah, no problem. There are a number of triggers. Obviously, on vendor databases like SYSPRO, you they're not, you know, they don't allow SQL triggers. But if you've got other databases, and we do see this where there's other databases that a business owns, and you may have something that happens on there, then we do have things like SQL triggers. So that SQL trigger can be picked up even if it's on a different database, but maybe something changes on like a custom application where you've got a database. It can trigger and then start to fire the task to do something that ultimately may well talk between SYSPRO and that other system as well. So there are things like that, and there are there's webhooks as well that we can deal with. So interestingly, with SalesForce, and I'll explain sometimes why it's the pros and cons of webhooks, and maybe you already know this, is that webhooks fire now. Yes, if they can't get through, depending on the system, they retry a number of times, all that sort of thing. But ultimately, you could, you know, sometimes the webhook idea is great, but it's then recreating that webhook to re-trigger the data. So it might be in a combination of webhooks. So BPA itself has got its own API that can be obviously accessible from the outside world securely if you want it to go that way. So for instance, SalesForce can absolutely, and other systems, can trigger a webhook. BPA can catch it, and that can instigate a task. Your point about how does it recover and how does it process things? Well, most of our integrations, if not all of them these days, we will use a staging database. Okay, nothing doesn't have to be overly complex, but it basically acts as a queue and a retry mechanism. So imagine a queuing system. It's at a database level, so we know if we've tried to get in touch with, say, from SYSPRO to SalesForce, and you know, SalesForce is out of action. I doubt very much it usually is, but you get the idea. Then if we can't get there, then we've got the retry mechanism there straight in the body of BPA. So, and that really is the other way around as well. Of course, if we can't, for whatever reason, process a sales order going into SYSPRO, we've got a mechanism that will wait for a few minutes, maybe retry again, just in case there's a latency issue or a temporary connection problem. And then after that, we've got mechanisms that one of our tool sets is it can send emails, it can send text messages, but whoever needs to know would then get informed that, yeah, there's a problem with a sales order, or there's a connection issue with SalesForce, or whatever it might be. So there's always a way to at least have an audit track and a retry mechanism there between the integrations, for sure.
Excellent, thanks. I mean, we'll be SYSPRO SalesForce, so that should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and just to add to that, David, as well, from a SYSPRO point of view, although we would steer away from SQL triggers because of performance issues and things like that, SYSPRO within the application itself has a couple of functions that we can leverage. One is a SYSPRO trigger, the other is a SYSPRO e-signature, both of which do a very similar job, and will, based on an event within SYSPRO, it can fire off something else happening, and we utilize that to fire off a request for a BPA task to run. So, for example, you know, a production job, for example, in SYSPRO has been receipted with, you know, a higher quantity than was expected. There could be an e-signature or a trigger within SYSPRO that says, go and now fire off this automation task that goes and does something else. So rather than it sitting there polling, you know, once every minute, once every 5 minutes, it's doing it immediately based on that transaction happening.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? I think Kelvin and David have done such an excellent job and answered all the questions that nobody's got any left.
Either that or, yeah, we've done the opposite.
Yeah, confused everybody.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think unless there are any other questions, we'll sort of bring this to a close and wrap up now. You know, what I'd just like to say though is you know, if you do have any questions, whether it's, you know, Salesforce integration related or any other type of integration or automation that perhaps we can help with when it comes to SYSPRO, please do reach out to us. I know Kelvin and the team at Codeless will be glad to do more specific demos for your purposes, go into more detail if that's what you'd like. Kelvin, do you want to just flick to the last slide? So on screen there, this is me being clever and technical, and there's some QR codes there that you can scan to follow us on LinkedIn, or you know, there's the email address and phone number at the bottom as well. Please do reach out to us. I think pretty much everybody that's on this call is an existing customer anyway, of ours, and I know we got a couple of representatives of one customer who are looking at doing a SYSPRO Salesforce integration. So that's really good to see you guys on here, to see what we can offer. I know we've got some sessions booked, I think it's next week, to start looking at that in more detail. If anybody else wants to get into more, you know, sort of a more detailed look at what BPA can do for them, or has a different set of requirements that you want to talk through, just get in touch with us. We'll gladly set something up, answer any questions you have, go through it in more detail with you. But bringing this to a close now, I'd like to thank you all for attending, but also I'd like to thank Kelvin and David for their time going through everything with us, and wish everybody a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.